Welcome to another exciting live stream of Esoteric the Podcast. I'm Traveler Excessive.
I'm the Mad Wanderer.
And I'm Declan.
So for those of you who don't know, we popped our names in a Wu-Tang generator. And that's what we got. So we're sorry you had to hear that first. So joining us, as you heard before, Declan from Bicycle Inn. If you if you listened to our podcast on, Wednesday? We did a review of Bicycle Inn's reruns, and we have Declan from Bicycle Inn joining us. So, Declan, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming on. How are things in COVID-19 weird times?
Right? They're all right. We the band got together for the first time yesterday, so we got to spend the day together doing our own little live stream thing. It was the first time we'd seen each other since like February, other than me and Noah, but yeah, it was the first time all four of us were together since February, and it felt good. It was like nothing had happened. We just all walked in and went right back to the same old like stupid inside jokes, and it was like we never left. It was great.
So there's hope that the world can return to normal.
Exactly. There is hope. It starts here. It starts with us. As long as you do it safely.
Yeah, maintain social distancing, everyone.
Right.
And you guys were live on the Hammer Collective's Instagram last night?
Yes, we attempted to. We had some technical difficulties. I spent the better part of 16 straight hours trying to get all the technology set up so that we could do a professional stream with a 4K camera and our mic preamps and all that stuff. And about 4.5 minutes into the stream, it all went to hell. So, but there's hope for the future. There will be future streams that will work. They won't be on Instagram, but they will certainly work. So, staying positive.
Nice. So, this past Wednesday, like I said before, we talked about reruns. And so, why don't we talk a little bit about reruns and that? So. That came out in 2016, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yep. January of 2016.
And was that you guys' first release, or did you have anything else come up before that?
No, that was the first, our first release. It was actually the first 4 songs we ever wrote together. Me, our lead singer and guitar player Noah, and our drummer Josh, all got together and just started jamming. Came up with a couple ideas for songs. Recorded it with a buddy and just put it out. I think it was the summer of 2016. We started as a band in January of 2016.
And see, like I said before we started, I lose my train of thought constantly. So about summer of 2016. This has nothing to do with that. Do you have a favorite track on the album that you guys worked on?
On reruns?
Yeah.
My favorite track on reruns is definitely Weightless, I'd say. I'd say it's my favorite because it was the most fun to play at the time, because I had some really, what I thought at the time was a very fancy bass line. I was very proud of myself for coming up with it, and it was really fun to play. And then listening back to it now, it just seems kind of busy for no reason. But that was always my favorite to play. We haven't played those songs in years now, but yeah, I'd definitely say that's still my favorite.
Yeah, I know my personal favorite was always CPR, just because of the drum break in between the chorus starting. That was, for some reason, my favorite part of the the
CPR is definitely the hit on reruns for sure.
Yeah,
definitely the best song on that little EP.
What would you say, maybe like influence-wise, was kind of you guys' influence for that release, or just as a group in general? What kind of influence did you guys
so our influences has changed a lot over the years. Back when reruns came out, we were listening to a lot of Modern Baseball and Turnover and guys like that. Nowadays, it's more like Free Throw and more bands like that.
We did an episode right earlier in the season on modern baseball sports. So
Yeah.
I think that when we did this episode, it was kind of a nice blend of going back to something that we started before. So you guys just fit perfectly right into that category.
Awesome. Love to be compared to modern baseball. Feels good.
I hope it was a compliment. That was the hope.
I'm taking it as one.
Chris, I don't want to leave you out in there.
Oh, I'm here. Sorry, I was just I was sharing the stream on social media.
I want to make sure you didn't feel left out at all. So Declan, what first got you into music?
So when I first got into music, I was 11 years old, 5th grade, my first year of middle school, and they handed out like a little pamphlet flyer thing to like check off the instrument that you want to learn. And I went down the list. I didn't know what any of them were, so I just checked off bass because I thought it looked cool. It was a stand-up bass, and I didn't know anything about the instrument or anything. I just clicked it off because it was mandatory. Played it all through middle school and like jazz bands and stuff, and hated it. Did not like it at all until I got involved with my church playing bass in my youth group at the time in high school. And that's where I learned to love music and learned to love playing in a band. I got to actually apply the skill I had been learning to something that I was passionate about, not something that just like a teacher told me to do. Not that I don't appreciate all the music teachers I had in school. It was just different when I was making the decision for the first time to play what I wanted to play and play it the way I wanted to play it. And that was when I first learned to like be creative with my music and add my own like personality into it, because when you're just in a youth group playing in a band, everybody sucks anyway. So you can kind of just do whatever you want and just experiment and see what works and what doesn't.
Right. I wanted to jump back for a second because I forgot to mention it when we were talking about reruns a second ago, but the cover is Scout. And we talked a little bit before. So I'm an Eagle Scout. Chris is a Scoutmaster, and you're also the Eagle Scout on the cover, right?
Yes, I am the Eagle Scout on the cover of Reruns. That has next to nothing to do with the actual content of the EP, but that came out right around the time that I had my like ceremony and stuff, and all the guys were there, and it was fun and stuff, and we wanted to make a cover that we thought would make us stand out a little bit. We looked at a lot of the covers that other bands in our genre were putting out, and it's a lot of like the same, like, oh, look at my Polaroid photo, or like, look at this like lo-fi thing, we're like, let's do something different. And like, it was like, oh, Declan just got his Eagle Scout. Like, how many emo bands have a Boy Scout on their cover? And so we did that because we thought it would catch your eye a little bit. And it was also like kind of relevant to the whole thing being reruns, like looking back on your life thus far. And it was like at that time, the biggest accomplishment of my life. So it fit that way. But as far as the actual content of the music, there's not much connection there.
So, as a Scoutmaster, of course, the obligatory question I have is, what was your Eagle project?
I went above and beyond the Call of Duty for my Eagle Scout project. I built 160 birdhouses and put them all up behind Foxborough High School. At the time, Foxborough High had just cut down a bunch of the wetlands in back of the school, and to turn them into baseball fields. And so part of the like restoration project of that was that they dug a huge drainage swale into the side of the fields and needed to like fill it with stuff. So my project was to build 160 birdhouses to put all around the property to try to make up for the lost habitat of the birds. But turns out a couple years later that birdhouses don't actually do that. But on top of the birdhouses, I also planted around like 100 berry bushes in the actual drainage swale itself, and built a couple dozen stone check dams along the length of the swale, just like a huge environmental sustainability project to just help, like I said, maintain those wetlands that remained after they were cut down for the baseball fields.
Excellent. Good. Strong work.
I was still working on the project after I had gotten my Eagle Scout. because it was not done, but I had done enough to qualify to get the badge. So, but I did finish it. I did go back and finish it.
Excellent.
So I don't know if you listen to a lot of our episode, but we I think like idiots, we went through and I think looked at everything on your uniform and explained what it was. We like
That's awesome.
deciphered the story behind you.
I love it.
While looking at the cover. So
I love it.
That'd be worth mentioning.
We're nerds.
We could go on for like the next hour about just Scout stuff.
For sure.
Like how you had a Philmont patch on, and
I did. I went to Philmont. I was the leader of my Philmont group. That was stressful. But that was the only one of the high adventure camps I went to. But it was cool. But yeah, I remember that particular uniform didn't have like all of my stuff on it because it was one I had bought like for the actual ceremony. So it was like brand new. So I just slapped a couple things on it and went to the ceremony. The other one didn't fit me anymore. I hadn't worn it in years. So.
So we could probably sit here and talk about Scouts for like the next hour and like have something new to talk about.
Right.
But we're here to talk about Bicycle Inn, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So what would you say you guys' creative process is like? Like how do you guys usually build a song?
So usually Noah will come up with like an idea for the song and some lyrics. And we'll all get together, we'll sit down and we'll talk about like, usually we'll talk about like what the song means, what like the emotion behind the song is. We'll have like a general chord progression and a general like structure in mind, and we'll just start like playing and jamming on the song until we get it to a place where we like it. And then back when we could play shows regularly, we used to play like every other week. We would play the new songs live and see like what our friends thought about it and stuff like that, and just see if like people were getting the right thing from the song and we wanted to. And so it was a very like community, it was like half community driven and also half like just what we felt about it. Because at the end of the day, if we liked it and we felt it told the story we wanted it to tell, then that was enough for us, and we'd move on with it. But it was a very long process, and we were all very busy, and we didn't really. It takes us a long time to get stuff out.
Now you guys said you played like every week or so, every other week or so.
For a while, we were playing like every other weekend. It felt like we were busy.
Well, what would you say that your favorite venue to play at was so far?
It's tough. That's a tough one. I like Dusk in Providence. I don't know if you've ever been there.
Play there.
Oh no.
I don't know why.
You just gotta get the right. You just gotta get the right promoter, man.
Never happens.
But yeah, I love Dusk. I love playing there. We play at the Alchemy all the time in Providence. The Alchemy is great. One of the best show experiences we ever had was when we got to play at the Palladium upstairs in Worcester not too long ago, back in August. Cool. That show was really fun. I mean, it was the Palladium upstairs, but it was still like, hey, we're playing the Palladium.
Palladium, yeah. It's like playing the Middle East. It's upstairs, but you're still playing the Middle East.
Right, but you still played there, so you can still put it on your like resume or whatever. But
right.
Yeah, but definitely Dusk. I like Dusk a lot because it's small, and so when not a lot of people show up to your show, it looks fuller than it is. But also I like I just like the general vibe of the place to give the most generic answer I possibly could.
Now, this is kind of an insider question because I've played shows before, so I want to ask this question because I'm curious.
Sure.
Do you guys miss the shop on the ground?
No.
No, you don't miss the shop on the ground?
No, not at all.
Not at all?
Not even a little bit. I hated it.
Not even really?
I didn't like the shop.
Yeah,
I love the people. Like I love Nick Lowney, but like I never liked the shop.
Yeah, I didn't like getting in and out of there. I like the idea of the venue itself being so close up to everybody, but getting in and out of there is kind of a nightmare.
No, the day I heard that the shop underground was closing forever, I was like, yeah, man, that's the end of an era, but like I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So. And then I was just going down to Patterson Creations. It's all good.
Mm-hmm. Another place that I would be that I love Patterson. He's actually a good friend of Josh Kraskell's, but another venue that we played at umpteenth times.
Yeah. I have a list of something I was going to ask, and I lost my place. Chris, ask a question while I figure this out. ask our boy Declan a good question.
Okay.
I like throwing this on you.
So what do anything were you guys in the middle of doing anything when sort of the whole pandemic came down on you? Or?
Yes. So we actually spent the whole month of February at a studio in New Jersey called Soundacre Studio, run by the lovely Gary Sione, recording our first full-length record. So as soon as we got back from that, we decided we were just going to take a month off from being a band because we were sick of seeing each other. Because in the build up to going into the studio, we were probably practicing like 3 days a week for about 2 months, getting ready for that. And so we took a month off, and then we were ready for like our big it was actually, we were going to play a show for the release of our newest split, which came out back in March. Us and the band Eleanor and the Pretty Things put out a split together, and we were going to do a big reunion return show to celebrate the split, and that was like the same weekend that the first quarantine started in Rhode Island. So yeah, but as I said, we got together for the first time since then yesterday, so we're starting to move forward, try to do some more like live stream online concerts and stuff like that until we can finally get a show together.
I also want to add too, if you anyone who's watching, if you visit our website on the live streams tab, there are links to Opening Up Doors for Strangers, which is your release from 2018. Right?
Yes, that came out in October of 2018. That is.
I was gonna say there's a link to that split and reruns as well. So all the stuff we're going to talk about, you can find on the website. There's links to the Bandcamp account. So please support them because Bandcamp's waiving fees for the month of May.
Ooh.
So get 100% of the content. I figured out what I was going to ask you, and that's, do you think that social media now is like a big aspect of the music, local music scene, like as far as booking shows go and everything?
Yes, I think social media is kind of where your band lives and dies. Unfortunately, in a strange way, we live in a world where your internet presence is sometimes more important than what your band even sounds like, which is not necessarily a bad thing because it allows bands to be judged based on more of like the people that they are and the people that they put forward in an interesting way. And it also allows the people that are listening to your music to connect with you on a much more personal level than you ever could. Especially in a DIY scene, it's all about the friends that you make and supporting the scene and things like that. And the more active you are in that scene, the more people are going to care about your band. If you're supporting what they're enjoying, then they're going to support you in return. And social media is just an incredible tool to do that. And that's not something you could ever really do before, back when every band was just like an island in and of itself, hoping that they made friends with bar owners and things like that. Now we have the ability to just use social media as a tool to organize ourselves, get 5 bands together, get a promoter in and rent a venue and play a show at like the Alchemy in Providence and things like that, which is not something that was very easy before social media was a thing. I mean, basement shows are amazing and all, but like when basement shows are your only option, it's hard to have more exposure to your music. And if you can use social media to, like I said, organize and get bigger venues and get more pull and more people to shows, the more that people are going to get to hear your music and the more you can share your art.
You know, and to piggyback off that, you know, when I was doing music a lot, we started up being a band in like 2015, and we didn't like do anything for the first 2 or 3 years because we didn't know. So I guess what I'm curious about is like, how did you guys start and then start to get into the scene that you guys are in now locally, and you start to expand even more past like how did this all begin? You know, because like I said, social media plays a big role into it. You learn from other people and stuff. So I'm just curious.
So big props to our lead singer, Noah, because this band wouldn't be a thing without him. He has always known people just around like one of the first shows we ever played was at the Met in Pawtucket, because he knew one of the organizers there, and they got us in on a really small bill, and we got some people in there. And from there, the person at that show got us in touch with another promoter, and we played a couple shows for him at like the FET in Providence. And that guy didn't really work out. And so, but from that, we got in touch with another guy, and, you know, you just bounce around. And the best way to keep growing like that and keep moving around is to stay in touch with other bands. Like look into other bands that are in your scene, and just say, hey, like, who do you know who books shows? Like if somebody reached out to us right now, I'd say, yeah, absolutely check out like Nick Lowney, the Hammer Collective. They book tons of shows, you know, like, but there's tons of people out there. And if you don't know who to talk to as far as like venues and promoters, talk to other bands. And that comes back to being active on social media, you know, because I know our social media, we try to respond to every single person that messages us, you know, and like, I know there's a lot of bands that are like that. If you just message like Eleanor and the Prettiest Things, or like Familiar Spaces, or even us, you know, there's a lot of people out there that are going to love to help you, because we care about the scene, and we care about seeing our friends succeed and seeing people get to play the music they want to play and share their art.
This is the last question I have scene wise about it, because then I want to move on to some of the stuff that you guys have done recently. But I did want to ask if there's one thing you could change about how the local music scene is. Do you have a thing that would be?
That's a tough question. I think that it's a pretty welcoming place already. But yeah, I mean, I'm not the best guy to ask that question, because I'm not personally
I would agree
active,
with you.
But yeah. I think that if I could change anything, I would just make it easier for bands to get shows at venues, you know, because it's still hard. You still have to go through a promoter and most of the time and stuff like that. So if there was anything I could change, I would just make it a little bit easier for us to get into different venues, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's a good answer. I would agree with you 100%, because it is a really welcoming place. You know, for like somebody like me that was like 17 getting started and not knowing anything, and actually being a little nervous because you've never been in that type of a crowd before. Like it was a lot more welcoming to get to know people and meet people like you guys who were super nice to us. So that was really cool.
Thank you.
So I mentioned it before, opening doors to strangers. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure thing. So Opening Doors to Strangers is the EP that we put out in October of 2018. And that was probably the first time that our band sounded the way we wanted it to sound. You know, for a long time leading up to that, like with reruns and like there was a couple singles out in between, you know, we were trying to find our sound. We were trying to find what we wanted to sound like. And then we spent a long time on Opening Doors to Strangers and getting it right, making it sound the way we wanted it to sound, and getting those songs right. And, you know, when we put out Clear My Head, which was the single from that EP, we were like, yes, this is what we want to sound like. This is what Bicycle Inn sounds like. And then we tried really hard to just hone that in and make sure that we didn't sound like Hotelier, or we didn't sound like Turnover or Modern Baseball or any of these bands. We wanted to sound like Bicycle Inn, and Opening Doors to Strangers was the first time I think we did that.
Did it again, Aaron. I did it again. Actually, you know, so similar question as before. Do you have a favorite track on that as well?
My favorite track from Opening Doors is gotta be I'd Understand If You Told Me. That is definitely my favorite track. It just, I think like Clear My Head is fun to play and all, but Opening Doors, or I'd Understand has a very cohesive narrative to it, and it's also just fun as hell to play. So
so actually on that as well, you mentioned before you liked playing Wheatless before, and you guys have, you know, really not played those songs as much. So what is your favorite song to perform now?
My favorite song to perform now is probably Posture, which is off of our newest split that just came out in March. Posture, I think, and Ivy League Therapy, both the songs from that split are definitely just the natural evolution from our last stuff, again, just continuing to refine our sound and sound like we want to and stuff. And I think Posture is definitely like just the next step in the direction that we're heading. And it's fun to tell to play because I just love like the energy and the emotion of the song,
And did you guys go on a tour recently or within the past year or two?
Yes, we did. We went on a tour last May, I think. Time is a construct, and everything blends together. But yes, we went on a tour last year with a band that I'm blanking, and that's super embarrassing.
Well, I was just going to ask,
yes.
Basically my question off that was, how was your experience touring different than, I know it's different than just playing a show.
We've been on a couple different tours. We went on a tour. We went on a week-long tour with the Fairview. We went on a weekender with Familiar Spaces. And we went on another most recent weekender, and I'm blanking on the name. That's super embarrassing, and I'm going to get it right now. Give me 1 second, because that's not okay. I should know this.
There's a lot of time in between events. It makes total sense.
Yeah, like I said, everything is starting to blend together.
Especially with everything going on now, that's for sure.
Absolutely. I don't know. That's gonna come to me halfway through this. So I'm gonna shout it out and shout out my man Connor Lenahan, because he was the lead singer in that band. And they're all great guys. And the name of your band is gonna come to me, and I'm really sorry that I can't remember it. But to answer your question about touring, yes, touring is wildly different than any experience I've ever had. I've done long road trips and stuff, and it doesn't come anywhere near to what touring is actually like, even if it's just a week, which is a small tour in the grand scheme of things. Like it was, it's very strange to say, okay, I'm going take a week of vacation time off from your job or school or whatever it is, and go on this weird road trip where you play a show every night in a different place that you've never been to do before. You don't know if anybody's going to show up. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And like just play your heart out every night and work really hard, because playing a show takes a lot out of you. And especially when you're giving it your all, and you're trying to put on the best show that you can for the people that are there, the people that paid to be there. And sometimes you get paid and sometimes you don't. You just hope that you can have enough money to fill your gas tank to get to the next venue. And at the end of it all, we broke even on the week-long tour, and we all got like an extra like $5 in our pocket. And it was like, yeah, I just worked really hard every night to go on a road trip with my friends for free and made $5, I guess. But yeah, it's a strange experience, because like I said, sometimes you'll show up in a venue in New Jersey in a bar, and you've never been to this town in New Jersey before. You don't even know anybody, if anybody's gonna even show up to this. And then all of a sudden there's like 80 people in this bar, and it's a great time. And then the next night you're in like Philadelphia and your show just gets canceled, and now you got to drive to like Brooklyn, and it's you're just kind of at the whim of, especially with a DIY tour like the ones we did, where you're just kind of at the whim of whatever like little local manager is out there trying to put these shows together. And it's tough, but unfortunately that's just what touring is at our level. That's the only way to make it happen. And you got to tour to get your music out there, because a lot of times like the internet is a powerful tool to get your music out there, but at the end of the day, nothing is going to beat going on a tour and actually showing people like who you are and what you're about and what the music actually sounds like.
So what would you say as a group, or maybe even individually in your music career? What's the best advice you've ever been given as a musician or as a group?
As a musician,
Mhm.
I think the best advice I've ever been given is that nobody else in this venue gives a shit about what you sound like. Why do you give a shit what they care about? Just get up there and play your song and perform your art. And that's why you're doing it. You don't do this for anybody other than yourself, because if you are doing it for somebody other than yourself, you're doing it wrong, because nobody cares, unless you show them that you care. And that starts if you're doing this for yourself. And if you do this for yourself and you put your art out there and you do it honestly, then people will see that, then people will connect with you, and then people will start to care. But you have to let go of what everybody else thinks of you in order to even get on that stage and play your heart out.
The beauty of us doing this podcast too is, and I noticed this when we listened to your album recently on the show, but we look to pay attention to more what's the detail behind the tracks and the song and the people. And I could really, I've seen you guys probably 3 or 4 times just because we were playing the same shows, and
Thank you.
That's when I'd see you guys, and when it's live, you're not so much paying attention to the words as you are when you're sitting in your house and just like immersed in it, at least for me. And I could say I could really feel the heart and the soul, even more listening to the words than I already did live.
Well, thank you. That means a lot.
Yeah, I think that advice is really important, and I can tell it's shaped who you guys are as a group, and so just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
You're genuine. That's we talk about that a lot on this podcast. There's a lot of bands that are not well known, but people who are really putting their heart into it, and you can tell when it's genuine or whether they're trying to find a niche in the market. And you guys are definitely genuine.
Well, thank you. That means a lot. Yeah, we really try hard to, like, these songs mean a lot to us all for a lot of different reasons, and so every single one is a labor of love and means something to us. And even if it means something different to somebody else, it's still like our responsibility almost to be just as honest in our performances and just as honest in our like online personas or whatever it is, to be just as honest as we want our music to seem.
So I know everything's so uncertain with COVID-19, but I wanted to ask, we talked a little bit before you guys were in the studio. Do you have any other plans? Like what's next for you guys? Do you have any more quarantine shows, you think?
Definitely more quarantine shows coming up in the near future. So definitely keep an eye on our social media for that. As I said, we did just finish tracking LP1. More details on that to follow. I can't share too much about that, but it's definitely real. It's definitely going to come out someday soon. But yeah, I mean, check out our stream. Please check out the split. Check out Eleanor and the Pretty Things. They're incredible musicians. We were so honored to get to put out a release with them. We even got to do vinyl pressings of that split. We put the split out through a record label called Morning Records. They're incredible guys over there. They helped us out a lot. We're not signed to them by any means. They released the EP, the split for us, and also had some vinyls printed. So if you can, I don't know if they're still selling them. They may be sold out, but if you can buy one, please do. It supports Morning Records, supports Eleanor and the Pretty Things, and it's those guys do great work.
And do you have any like social media and stuff you want people to press? I know we have a few people on here that I don't think probably know who you guys are. So you guys want to press a little bit of that, or do you want to press a little bit of that?
I mean, yeah, you can check out our Instagram at Bicycle In, Facebook. We're very active on Twitter too. Yeah, we have all the social medias. Don't have too much on YouTube, but we're getting there. Yeah, check out the social medias, because that's where we are. Like I said earlier, social media is kind of where it all happens. That's how you know about the shows. That's how you find out about the music. Other than that, we're kind of just, without social media, we'd just be screaming into the void. So please follow us.
So I have to ask a completely unrelated question, and I mentioned this to you earlier, so it's not a total surprise, but what's your favorite kind of soup?
My favorite kind of soup?
Yes.
Oh man, you did tell me earlier, and I had all this time to come up with an answer, and I didn't. So I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna say just straight like chicken noodle soup, because it makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside to have some just good old fashioned chicken noodle soup, and I love
It
that.
cures the cold.
It does. Cures
Hopefully it
everything.
cures the hopefully it cures the
coronavirus.
COVID.
It doesn't.
Yeah,
It doesn't.
hopefully.
It doesn't cure coronavirus.
Don't try and do that.
Don't try
that. Would
that.
be good. Well, Declan, I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I do appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. And if you haven't heard Bicycle In, you are missing out. You need to go and check them out everywhere on social media. Declan just mentioned. You can go to esotericthepodcast.com and find them on our live streams tab or our episodes tab or anything like that. You'll be able to find them. So if you haven't, you're missing out. You need to go listen to them now. That is an order. But Declan, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. I really was really happy to get to talk to a fellow Eagle Scout and you guys again. So
yes, no, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate it.
Of course.
One last thing I'm going to say, because I think we're going to wrap up a little bit early this week, but if everyone, this Wednesday we have a new episode coming out. We have an interview with Homer Flynn from The Residents coming out on our podcast on Wednesday, so please check that out. And this Friday we have a new series, Famous Folks, coming out, and we don't want to give away any information about that till Wednesday, so keep on the lookout. esotericthepodcast.com. All right. So thank you, Declan, again. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll check in with you next Sunday.
Stay cool, everyone.